shareholders only, my stepbrother Nathan sneered, barring the boardroom door. I smirked, brandishing my phone. Good thing I'm about to reveal I control 75% of Mitchell Dynamics, and a secret that'll ruin you. My heart slammed against my ribs as I stood outside the sleek, glass-walled boardroom of Mitchell Dynamics, the Seattle skyline a cold gray blur beyond the windows. The air smelled of polished wood and betrayal. My stepbrother Nathan loomed in the doorway, his tailored suit sharp as a blade, his grin sharper still. "Shareholders only, Sarah," he said, voice dripping with venom. "You're out." His words hit like a sucker punch, but I forced a smile, my fingers tightening around me. Inside that slim device was a secret that could burn his smug confidence to ash. A secret about who really owned my father's $500 million 0-cents tech empire. I was done being pushed aside. Today, I'd turn the tables on my scheming stepfamily and reclaim what was mine. I'm Sarah Mitchell, 31, daughter of David Mitchell, the genius who built Mitchell Dynamics from a $15,000 0-cents loan into a cybersecurity juggernaut that protected banks, governments, and tech giants across the globe. My father was my hero, my mentor, the man who taught me to code before I could ride a bike. He'd sit me on his lap in his cluttered office, his voice warm as he explained algorithms like they were bedtime stories. "You see puzzles others can't, Sarah," he'd say, ruffling my hair. "That's your superpower." But 10 months ago, he was ripped away from me in a private jet crash off the Pacific coast. A crash investigators whispered might not have been an accident. The grief still claws at me, a raw wound that flares every time I step into this building, his life's work. My father's death wasn't just a personal loss. It was the start of a calculated siege. His will, read in a sterile attorney's office, felt like a second death. My stepmother, Victoria Caldwell, a woman with the charm of a viper and the cunning to match, inherited 45% of the company's shares. Nathan, her sneering son, got 20%. Me? I got a measly 5%. The family estate overlooking Puget Sound, and a trust fund that felt more like a consolation prize than an inheritance. I sat there, numb, as the lawyer's words echoed. Had I misread every late-night talk with Dad, every promise that I'd carry his legacy? The betrayal stung worse than the grief. Victoria wasted no time. Despite knowing nothing about tech, she crowned herself CEO, her manicured nails clicking on my father's desk like a predator staking claim. Nathan, who'd coasted through middle management on charm and excuses, was named Chief Strategy Officer. Lily, barely qualified to run a social media account, became head of brand strategy. And me, I stayed Chief Technology Officer, a title I'd earned through years of grinding, but my role was gut. My AI projects, the heart of our next-generation security platform, had their budget slashed by half. My team was reassigned, my keycard deactivated from secure floors, my emails ignored. It wasn't just exclusion. It was a systematic campaign to erase me from my father's company. Nathan was the worst. In meetings, he'd lean back, smirking, dismissing my ideas as cute but impractical while board members shifted uncomfortably. Once, during a critical demo for a major client, he leaked a doctored report claiming my prototype caused a data breach. My team's morale tanked as whispers spread, and I spent weeks rebuilding their trust. Lily wasn't much better. She'd accidentally send company-wide emails mocking my designs, like the time she compared my UI to a toddler's scribble in a reply-all thread. She'd apologize, all doe-eyed innocence, but the damage was done. Victoria operated with surgical precision, scheduling vital board votes when I was halfway across the globe meeting clients, then feigning regret. "Oh, Sarah, if only you'd told me sooner." But I wasn't alone. Robert Kim, our CFO and my father's best friend for 3 decades, saw through their game. Over discreet lunches at hole-in-the-wall diners, he'd slip me financial reports Victoria had buried, his voice low. Your dad would hate this, Sarah. Be patient. Watch for their mistakes. Jessica Torres, our VP of engineering and a hire Dad had championed, was my other lifeline. She'd forward emails I'd been cut from, warning me of backroom deals. Through her, I learned of Project Nexus, a cryptic plan Victoria and Nathan whispered about in hushed tones. One night, outside the executive lounge, I caught their voices. Sarah's getting nosy, Nathan hissed. Once Vortex Capital closes the deal, she'll be irrelevant, Victoria replied, her tone ice-cold. Vortex Capital. The name sent a chill down my spine. I spent hours that night digging into their history, my laptop screen casting shadows across my darkened apartment. Vortex was a corporate raider, notorious for buying tech firms, stripping their patents, firing thousands, and leaving bankrupt shells behind. Their playbook was ruthless: seduce boards with promises of growth, then gut the company for profit. If they got their hands on Mitchell Dynamics, my father's legacy, his vision of tech that protected people, would be reduced to a footnote in their quarterly earnings. I couldn't let that happen, but with Victoria, Nathan, and Lily controlling 75% of the voting shares, I was outgunned, or so I thought. The tipping point came 3 nights ago. I stayed late, the office eerily quiet, trying to access financial projections for our quarterly review. My login failed. Credentials revoked, the screen taunted. I stormed to IT, where the manager, avoiding my eyes, muttered, "Orders from the CSO's office." Nathan. That same night my office was ransacked, drawers yanked open, prototype blueprints stolen, my laptop infected with ransomware that locked critical project files. I barely slept, my mind racing with the certainty that Vortex was closing in. Then Robert texted. Emergency board meeting Friday. Vortex execs will be there. They're hiding the agenda. You're not invited. I drove home through a Seattle downpour, rain hammering my windshield, mirroring the storm inside me. My father's company, his life's work, was slipping away, and I was powerless. Or was I? At home, in the sprawling estate Dad left me, I wandered into his study, a room I'd avoided since his death. The scent of his cologne lingered, faint but piercing. His mahogany desk, an antique passed down through 3 generations, stood like a sentinel. I sank into his leather chair, running my fingers over its worn armrests, whispering, "What would you do, Dad?" He'd always said, "The answer's never on the surface, Sarah. Dig deeper." Started with the desk's drawers, pulling out pens, notepads, old business cards, relics of his life. Then, in the bottom right drawer, I noticed something off. It was too shallow. My fingers brushed the wooden base, and with a soft click, a false bottom gave way. Inside was a cream-colored envelope, my name scrawled in Dad's bold handwriting. Below it, instructions. Open when they try to steal everything. My hands shook as I tore it open. "My dearest Sarah," it began, his voice echoing in my mind. "If you're reading this, Victoria and her children have shown their true colors. I hoped for a real family, but I've seen their performative kindness, their dismissal of your brilliance. I'm not naive. The prenup protected my assets, but my will had to provide for them. What's happening now is what I feared." My breath caught as he revealed the bombshell. A blind trust holding 51% of Mitchell Dynamics voting shares, with me as the sole beneficiary. You're the true heir, Sarah, not just in blood, but in vision. This trust protects the company and gives you time to earn leadership on your terms. Contact Daniel Weiss at Weiss & Partners. He holds the documents. True ownership isn't about papers. It's about heart. You've always had that. Tears blurred the page. He'd known. He'd seen through Victoria's facade and planned for this moment. I called Daniel Weiss immediately, only to learn he was in court. I left a frantic message, pacing the house, clutching the letter. What if the trust wasn't airtight? What if Vortex had already locked in the deal? At 8 p.m., Weiss called back. "Sarah, this is sensitive. Meet me at my home tonight." An hour later, in his oak-paneled study, he unlocked a safe and handed me a folder stamped Mitchell Trust. "Your father set this up 5 years ago," Weiss said, his voice steady. "The trust holds 51% of voting shares, activated when you present his letter or if the company faces a sale without proper board review. These documents make you majority shareholder, effective upon your signature." He slid a USB drive across the desk. David also recorded a video for the board to be played if this scenario unfolded. Signed the papers, my hand trembling not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility. This wasn't just about stopping Victoria. It was about honoring Dad's belief in me. I had 36 hours until the board meeting. Sleep was impossible. By dawn, I was at my kitchen table, coffee in hand, mapping my strategy. I couldn't just walk in and declare ownership. I needed evidence, allies, and a plan to expose Vortex's predatory deal. I called Robert first. "Meet me before work, it's urgent." We met at a dive bar near Pike Place Market, the smell of stale beer grounding us as I showed him the trust documents. His eyes widened. "David, you clever bastard," he muttered, grinning. "This changes everything. But we need to move fast. If Victoria suspects, she'll lawyer up." Next, I looped in Jessica at Robert's house. Her jaw dropped as she read the papers. I knew they were snakes, but this? David outplayed them all. We divided tasks. Robert would dig into financials to prove Vortex's offer undervalued the company. Jessica would compile evidence of my stepfamily's sabotage. Emails, memos, anything to show their betrayal. My job was the hardest. Get the real merger documents. Jessica hesitated. They're locked on a secure server. Only Marcus Lee and IT can access them without tripping alarms. Marcus, who'd taught me to code as a teenager, was still loyal to Dad. I found him in the company cafeteria, hunched over a sci-fi novel. "Sarah, this is risky," he whispered, glancing around. "Nathan's watching everyone." I leaned in. "Vortex will gut us, Marcus. Your department's first on the chopping block." I showed him articles on Vortex's history, layoffs, bankruptcies, shattered dreams. He sighed, then nodded. 2 hours, midnight server room. That's your window? That night, in a dimly lit server room humming with cooling fans, Marcus logged me in. The files confirmed my worst fears. Vortex's merger was a full acquisition. Phase 1 transferred our AI patents to their subsidiaries. Phase 2 replaced my team with Vortex loyalists. Phase 3 dissolved Mitchell Dynamics entirely. Worse, Victoria had secured a $7 million 0-cents consulting fee, Nathan a C-suite role at Vortex, and Lily rights to our client database for my blood boiled. This wasn't just greed. It was a betrayal of everything Dad built. As I downloaded the files to an encrypted drive, the door rattled. My heart stopped. "Maintenance check," a voice called. Marcus stalled them, claiming a server reboot, but I barely escaped with the drive. The next morning I met Weiss to review the evidence. "This violates their fiduciary duty," he said, flipping through the documents. "You can block the merger and call for a board vote, but be careful. Moving against them too fast could spark lawsuit." He coached me on legal terms and voting procedures, preparing me for the fight of my life. By Thursday night, doubt crept in. Victoria, Nathan, and Lily had spent months undermining me. What if they challenged the trust's legality? What if Vortex had bribed board members? Alone in Dad's study, I held his letter, whispering, "I hope I'm ready." The silence felt like his nod from beyond. Tomorrow I'd face the boardroom, not as David Mitchell's daughter, but as the leader he'd raised me to be. Friday morning, Seattle sparkled under a rare clear sky, but inside me a storm raged. I wore Dad's favorite charcoal suit, my mother's pearl necklace, hair pulled back to mean business. Weiss met me in the lobby, his briefcase gleaming like armor. "Ready?" he asked. I nodded, though my stomach churned. The elevator to the executive floor felt like a climb to a guillotine. Robert waited by the boardroom, his face neutral but eyes sharp. They're inside. Vortex sent 3 suits. Victoria's schmoozing them. The board's in the dark about the real deal. I reached for the boardroom door, but Nathan stepped out, blocking me. His eyes glinted with malice. "Sarah, what a surprise. This is a closed meeting," his voice carried, ensuring the room heard. I kept my cool, though anger roared inside. "I know exactly what this meeting's about, Nathan." His smirk faltered as I held up my phone. Perfect timing to announce who really runs this company. Before he could react, Weiss stepped forward, handing him a card. "Daniel Weiss, Weiss & Partners. I represent Miss Mitchell as majority shareholder via the David Mitchell Trust." Nathan's face reddened. "What the hell? There's no trust. I saw the will." Weiss didn't flinch. "Check with your lawyers. The documents were filed with the SEC this morning." Nathan hesitated, then stepped aside, glaring. "Mother won't like this," he muttered. "Good," I said, brushing past him. The boardroom fell silent as I entered. Victoria sat in Dad's chair, her smile tight as she charmed 3 Vortex executives in pinstriped suits. Lily looked up from her phone, startled. The board members, a mix of old allies and Victoria's loyalists, exchanged confused glances. "Sarah," Victoria said, her voice saccharine, "this is a private meeting, dear." I stood tall, Weiss beside me. "I'm well aware, Victoria, but I have every right to be here." One Vortex exec, a silver-haired man with shark-like eyes, checked his watch. "Mrs. Caldwell, perhaps we should reschedule if there's a family dispute." I cut in before Victoria could speak. "No need, Mr. Grayson. Your presence is perfect. There are facts about Mitchell Dynamics you need to know." Victoria's smile vanished. "Sarah, that's enough. Security can escort you out." Weiss opened his briefcase, distributing folders. "Before anyone calls security, review these. They establish Ms. Mitchell as majority shareholder with 51% of voting shares through the David Mitchell Trust." The room erupted in murmurs. As board members flipped through the documents, Victoria snatched hers, her face paling. "This is absurd. David left me 45%. Weiss remained calm. The will covered 49% of shares. The majority was already in trust, with Sarah as beneficiary. I stepped to the center, channeling Dad's command. "My father created this trust 5 years ago to protect Mitchell Dynamics. He chose me not just as his daughter, but because I share his vision." I held up his letter, my voice steady despite the lump in my throat. "He wrote this for me, to be opened when they try to steal everything. Let me read you his words." The room hushed as I read. "Sarah, you're the true heir, not just in blood but in heart. This company is people, ideas, purpose. You've proven you're ready." I turned to the Vortex team. "Gentlemen, there will be no merger. Not today, not ever, while I control this company." Robert handed out our evidence folders. "These detail Vortex's plan. Strip our patents, fire our team, dissolve Mitchell Dynamics. They also show personal deals. $7 million, 0 cents for Victoria, a C-seat job for Nathan, client data for Lily, all betraying their duty to shareholders." Victoria stood, furious. "These were obtained illegally," Robert countered. "As CFO, I was excluded from merger talks, a clear governance violation." Nathan slammed the table. "This is a trick. Mother was David's wife. He wouldn't hide this." I met his eyes. He did, to protect what he built. I plugged in the USB drive and Dad's face filled the screen. The room froze. "If you're watching this," he began, "Sarah has taken her rightful place. I created this trust out of love for her and this company. To Victoria, Nathan, Lily, I provided for you, expecting you to support Sarah. If this video plays, you've chosen otherwise. Sarah leads now." His voice, strong and clear, was a lifeline. The Vortex execs shifted uncomfortably. Grayson spoke first. "We were misled about decision-making authority. We're withdrawing our proposal." I nodded. "Wise. The board would reject it anyway." I faced the board. "I move to reject Vortex deal and reaffirm Mitchell Dynamics as independent." Robert seconded. The vote was unanimous, Victoria's family abstaining. As the room cleared, Victoria lingered. "You think you've won?" she hissed. "This isn't about winning," I said. "It's about Dad's legacy." She left, her heels clicking like a countdown. The fight was over, but the war to lead was just beginning. I'd saved the company, for now. But could I prove I deserved to steer it into the future? The boardroom door clicked shut behind the last departing board member, leaving me standing in the silence of Mitchell Dynamics' executive floor, the Seattle skyline now cloaked in twilight. My pulse still thrummed from the showdown, a cocktail of adrenaline and vindication. I'd done it, stared down my stepfamily, exposed their betrayal, and saved my father's company from Vortex Capital's claws. The trust documents proving my 51% control lay scattered across the polished table, alongside the damning evidence of Victoria's $7 million 0 cents payout, Nathan's cushy Vortex job, and Lily's client data grab. But as I sank into my father's chair, the one Victoria had claimed as her throne, a chill crept over me. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a war I wasn't sure I was ready to fight. I'm Sarah Mitchell, 31, daughter of David Mitchell, the visionary who turned a $15,000 0 cents loan into a $500 million 0 cents cybersecurity empire. 10 months ago, a suspicious jet crash stole him from me, and his will handing 75% of the company to my stepmother, Victoria, and her kids, Nathan and Lily, felt like a knife in my back. I'd spent those months sidelined, sabotaged, and humiliated as chief technology officer, my AI projects gutted, my team scattered. But my father's hidden letter, found in his antique desk, revealed a blind trust, making me majority shareholder. With allies Robert Kim, our CFO, and Jessica Torres, VP of Engineering, I'd just derailed a corporate raid that would have gutted Mitchell Dynamics. Yet Victoria's parting words echoed, "You'll crumble running this empire." I pushed the thought away, but it lingered like a shadow. The boardroom's overhead lights flickered, a reminder of the power outage during the meeting, Nathan's suspected sabotage. I gathered the documents, my fingers brushing the USB drive holding Dad's video, his voice still ringing in my ears. "Sarah leads now." I slipped it into my pocket, a talisman against the uncertainty ahead. My phone buzzed with a text from Robert. "Meet me at the diner. We need to talk." I glanced at the empty offices beyond the glass walls. Victoria, Nathan, and Lily had already cleared out, their desks stripped bare. Were they retreating or regrouping? I locked the boardroom and headed out, the weight of 600 employees' futures pressing on my shoulders. At the diner, a greasy spoon near the waterfront, Robert waited in a corner booth, his tie loosened, a coffee mug steaming. The smell of fried onions and burnt toast grounded me as I slid in across from him. "You were a force in there, Sarah," he said, but his eyes were troubled. "David would have been proud, but this isn't over. Victoria's not the type to slink away." I nodded, stirring cream into my coffee. "He's got 45% of the shares. Nathan and Lily have 30% combined. They can still make trouble." Robert leaned forward, voice low. "I heard Nathan on a call as he left. He mentioned a plan B and someone named Kessler. We need to find out who that is." Kessler. The name sparked a memory. Dad mentioning a rival investor years ago, someone who'd tried to buy into Mitchell Dynamics but was rebuffed. I filed it away, my mind racing. "What's our next move?" I asked. Robert tapped the table. "First, stabilize the company. Send a company-wide email tonight. Reassure the staff. Meet with department heads tomorrow to kill any merger rumors. Second, dig into Nathan's plan B. I'll check financials for anything off. You talk to Jessica. She's got ears in engineering." He paused, studying me. "And Sarah? Watch your back. That power outage wasn't random." I drove home through Seattle's drizzle, my wipers slapping a tense rhythm. The estate Dad left me loomed dark on its cliffside perch, Puget Sound churning below. Inside, I poured a glass of his favorite bourbon and sat in his study, the letter still on the desk. My laptop glowed as I drafted the email. "To the Mitchell Dynamics family, today we reaffirmed our independence and commitment to David Mitchell's vision. As majority shareholder, I pledge to lead with transparency and protect our legacy. More to come tomorrow. Sarah Mitchell." I hit send, then called Jessica. "We need to meet," I said. "Something's brewing." The next morning, I walked into Mitchell Dynamics headquarters, the glass facade reflecting a stormy sky. Employees whispered in the lobby, their eyes following me. My inbox was flooded, supportive messages from longtime staff, cautious queries from newer hires, and a few anonymous barbs. "Think you can run this place, Princess?" I ignored them, heading to the conference room for the department head meeting. Jessica was already there, her laptop open, a stack of printouts beside her. "Got something," she whispered, sliding me a memo. "Nathan rerouted funds to an offshore account last week. $2 million, 0 cents, labeled consulting." My stomach dropped. Before I could respond, the room filled with executives, some loyal to Dad, others Victoria's appointees. I stood, projecting confidence I barely felt. "The Vortex deal is dead," I said. "We're doubling down on innovation, starting with Project Aurora, our AI security platform." Murmurs of approval rippled through the room, but a few faces stayed stone cold. I outlined next steps, restoring budgets, rehiring key staff, and opening communication channels. "Any questions?" A hand shot up. Greg Larson, a sales VP Nathan had promoted. "With respect, Sarah, you're not CEO. Why should we trust you over Victoria?" The room tensed. I met his gaze. "Because I'm the one my father trusted with 51% of this company. And because I'm here, fighting for you, not a payout." Silence, then slow nods. After the meeting, I pulled Jessica into my office. "That offshore account," I said. "Any leads?" She nodded, pulling up an encrypted file. "The account's tied to a shell company, Kessler Holdings." I cross-checked with IT logs. "Nathan accessed the financial system the night your office was hacked." My mind flashed to the ransacked drawers, the ransomware. "He's funding something big," I said. "And Kessler's the key," Jessica hesitated. "There's more. I found a draft press release on Lily's server. Never sent, but it claims you forged the trust documents. It's prepping a smear campaign." My blood ran cold. Lily's social media stunts were bad enough, but this was nuclear. "We need proof to shut her down," I said. Jessica nodded. "I'm on it. But, Sarah, be careful. Nathan's desperate, and desperate people do dangerous things." Her words echoed as I left for a lunch meeting with Daniel Weiss at a downtown cafe. The city buzzed around me, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. As I crossed the street, a black SUV idled at the curb, its tinted windows impenetrable. My pulse quickened, remembering the unmarked car that tailed me nights ago. I ducked into the cafe, scanning the room for Weiss. He was at a corner table, his briefcase open, a thick folder labeled Mitchell Trust before him. "Sarah," he said, standing, "you've stirred a hornet's nest." I slid into the booth, keeping the SUV in my peripheral vision. "Nathan's got a plan B," I said, relaying Robert's intel. Weiss frowned, flipping through his folder. "There's a known quantity. Shady investor, specializes in hostile takeovers. If Nathan's working with him, they're likely planning to challenge the trust's legality or tank the stock to force a buyout." He handed me a document. "This is your legal shield, ironclad proof of the trust's validity, but we need to file it publicly to preempt their move." As we spoke, a waiter approached, but something was off. His hands shook. His eyes darted. He set a coffee cup down, spilling it, then muttered an apology and bolted. I froze, staring at the cup. A faint chemical smell rose from the liquid. "Don't touch it," Weiss hissed, pulling me back. My heart pounded. Was this Nathan's doing? Weiss flagged the manager, who swore the waiter was a last-minute hire, now gone. "We need to get you somewhere safe," Weiss said, gathering his papers. I nodded, my mind racing. The SUV was still outside. We slipped out the back, Weiss calling his driver. As we sped toward his office, I texted Robert and Jessica. "Attempted poisoning at cafe, Kessler involved. Dig deeper." At Weiss's firm, a fortress of glass and steel, we locked ourselves in a conference room. "This is escalating," Weiss said, reviewing the trust documents. "We filed these with the SEC tomorrow, but until then, you're a target." He handed me a burner phone. "Use this. Your main line might be compromised." I stared at the device, the reality sinking in. My stepfamily wasn't just after the company. They were after me. That night, back at the estate, I double-checked every lock, the bourbon untouched. My laptop pinged with an email from an unknown address, the subject line chilling. "You can't hide, Sarah." The message contained a single photo, me leaving the cafe, time-stamped an hour ago. My breath caught. I forwarded it to Weiss and Robert, then called Marcus Lee. "I need you to trace an email," I said, my voice tight. Marcus, loyal to Dad since their startup days, didn't hesitate. "Send it over. I'll run it through our servers, but Sarah, if they're this bold, they've got resources we don't know about." By midnight, Marcus called back. The email came from a VPN, untraceable, but it bounced through a server linked to Kessler Holdings. "And there's something else, your office's security footage from the break-in. I recovered a partial frame. It's blurry, but the intruder's build matches Nathan's." My grip tightened on the phone. "Send it to Weiss, and Marcus, don't tell anyone." I hung up, staring into the dark. Nathan wasn't just scheming. He was orchestrating a campaign to destroy me. The next day, Saturday, I met Robert and Jessica at a safe house Weiss arranged, a nondescript condo in Bellevue. Robert spread financial reports across the table. Nathan's offshore account funneled another $1 million 0 cents to Kessler yesterday. It's labeled legal retainer, but I found invoices for private investigators and a cybersecurity firm known for black hat work. Jessica added, "This is Lily's draft press release, plus chat logs from her personal cloud. She's coordinating with a PR firm to launch the smear campaign Monday, claiming you bribed Weiss to fake the trust." I felt the walls closing in. "We need to hit back before they do," I said. Robert nodded. "I've got enough to prove Nathan's embezzlement. We can file a criminal complaint." Jessica leaned forward. "And I've got metadata from Lily's chats. She's been leaking client data to Kessler's team. We can sue for corporate espionage." Weiss, joining via secure video call, weighed in. "File the trust publicly first. It'll lock in your control. Then we hit him with the legal hammer. But Sarah, you need protection." "I've hired a security team." That afternoon, as Weiss's team escorted me to the SEC's local office, my burner phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Back off, or you'll end like your father." My blood froze. The jet crash, sabotage, suspected but never proven, flashed in my mind. I showed the text to my bodyguard, a stoic ex-Marine named Carter. "Stay sharp," he said, scanning the street. At the SEC, we filed the trust documents, a process that felt anticlimactic given the stakes. But, as we left, Carter tensed, pulling me behind a pillar. "Black SUV, 2 o'clock," he whispered. It was the same vehicle from the cafe. Carter radioed his team, and we slipped into an armored car, peeling away. My heart pounded as I called Marcus. "Check the company's GPS trackers. Nathan might be using them." Marcus's voice crackled back.
"Got it. One of our exec fleet cars pinged near your location, registered to Nathan's office."
The pieces fell into place. Nathan wasn't just funding Kessler. He was stalking me, maybe worse. I texted Weiss. "Nathan's tracking me. Escalate the complaint." Sunday was a blur of preparation. Weiss drafted lawsuits against Nathan for embezzlement and Lily for data theft. Robert finalized a board presentation exposing their financial misconduct. Jessica hacked into Nathan's personal email. Risky but necessary. Finding a message from Kessler. "Leak the financials Monday. Stock will crash. We buy low." My stomach churned. They planned to tank Mitchell Dynamics stock, forcing a hostile takeover. We had one shot to stop them. Monday morning, I walked into Mitchell Dynamics headquarters, Carter at my side. The SEC filing live. The lobby buzzed with nervous energy. Lily's smear campaign had hit social media, accusing me of fraud. Twitter was ablaze with hashtags like Mitchell fraud. My phone rang nonstop with reporters' calls. I ignored them, heading to the boardroom for an emergency meeting I'd called. Victoria, Nathan, and Lily were already there, their faces a mask of defiance. "This is a farce," Victoria snapped as I entered. "Your forged trust won't hold up." Nathan smirked, but his eyes betrayed panic. Lily avoided my gaze, her phone clutched tight. I stood at the head of the table, Weiss and Robert flanking me. "The trust is filed with the SEC," I said, voice steady. "I control 51% of Mitchell Dynamics, but we're here to address your crimes." Robert projected financials, highlighting Nathan's $3 million 0 cents siphoned to Kessler. Jessica followed with Lily's chat logs, proving she'd leaked client data. The board gasped, their loyalty to Victoria crumbling. "This is slander!" Nathan shouted, standing. Carter stepped forward, a silent warning. Then came the knockout. I played a new video, one Marcus had recovered from Dad's private server overnight. It showed Dad weeks before his death in his study. "If you're watching this, my fears were right," he said, his voice heavy. "Victoria's family is plotting against Sarah. I've seen their meetings with Kessler, their secret accounts. Sarah, you're my legacy. Fight for this company." To the board. "Trust her or lose everything." The room was silent, Victoria's face ashen. She hadn't known about this video. None of them had. Nathan lunged for the projector, but Carter restrained him. "Enough," I said, turning to the board. "I moved to remove Victoria, Nathan, and Lily from all positions pending criminal investigation." Robert seconded. The vote was swift, 10-2, with only Victoria's staunchest allies dissenting. As security escorted them out, Nathan hissed, "This isn't over, Sarah." I met his eyes. "It is for you." The aftermath was chaos. Reporters swarmed the building, but Jessica's PR team countered Lily's smear with a statement. "Mitchell Dynamics stands for integrity. False claims won't shake us." By noon, the lawsuits were filed and police were investigating Nathan's embezzlement. Social media shifted. Support Sarah trended as employees shared stories of my father's vision. I addressed the staff in the atrium, my voice echoing. "We're not just surviving, we're rebuilding. Project Aurora launches next month. This is our future." Cheers erupted, a wave of hope I hadn't felt since Dad's death. That night, alone in my office, Dad's office, I found a new email on my personal account, from a defunct address of his.
Aurora's core is more than code. Find the vault.
My breath caught. Was this a hack or something Dad left behind? I touched his photo on the desk, a smile breaking through my exhaustion. "We're not done yet, Dad," I whispered. The fight had forged me, not broken me. Mitchell Dynamics was mine, and I'd lead it to heights even he couldn't have dreamed.